In the world of professional boxing, legends are made and broken in a single night. Such was the case for Saul Canelo Alvarez last weekend, when he stepped into the ring with Terence "Bud" Crawford in a highly anticipated showdown that had been years in the making. What should have been a glorious night of Mexican pride and celebration soon turned into a nightmare that has left Canelo fans furious and heartbroken. As the dust settles on this shocking upset, we dive deep into the reasons behind the rage felt by Canelo's supporters after this devastating defeat. When the news of Canelo Alvarez facing Terence Crawford was announced, the excitement was palpable. Canelo, the pound-for-pound king, had finally agreed to challenge Crawford, the unified welterweight champion who had been calling out Canelo for years. For Canelo's devoted fans, this match was a chance to witness their hero cement his status as the greatest boxer of his generation. They had waited patiently for this moment, and now they were ready to erupt in cheers. On fight night, the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas was adorned in red, white, and green. Canelo's signature colors created a sea of Mexican flags waving frantically in the air as tens of thousands of Mexican, Americans, and fans from around the world gathered together to support their idol. The energy was electric. There was a sense of community and pride that transcended language and cultural barriers. It was more than just a boxing match. It was a celebration of Mexican heritage and excellence. As Canelo made his way to the ring, the crowd rose to their feet, their voices hoarse from hours of chanting his name. They had decked themselves out in Canelo merchandise, their faces painted in the colors of the Mexican flag. This was their champion, the man who had carried the hopes and dreams of an entire nation on his shoulders and delivered time and again. He was a symbol of their resilience, their strength, and their unyielding spirit. In the eyes of his adoring fans, he was not just a boxer, he was a legend in the making. And as the first bell of the fight rang out, they were ready to roar their support for their hero. But what they witnessed over the next few minutes would shatter their dreams and leave them in disbelief. From the opening bell, Terence "Bud" Crawford showcased a masterclass in boxing. His footwork was sharp, his defense flawless, and his counterpunching precise, keeping Canelo guessing all night long. Each round painted the same grim picture. Canelo swinging with power, but finding nothing but air, while Crawford slipped, pivoted, and landed clean shots that echoed through the arena. As the fight progressed, the reality of the situation became clear. Canelo, the seemingly invincible champion, was being outclassed and outmaneuvered by his younger, hungrier opponent. The crowd, which had entered the stadium with electric energy and deafening chants for Canelo, began to grow restless. Their cheers turned to confused murmurs and then to angry boos. They couldn't understand what was happening. Their hero was supposed to be untouchable. So why was he missing punch after punch? Why was he on the defensive? And why was Crawford landing blow after blow without so much as a scratch? The roar of the crowd reached a fever pitch as Canelo missed yet another haymaker, only to be countered by one of Crawford's pinpoint combinations. Some in the crowd covered their eyes, unable to bear the sight of their hero being dismantled before their very eyes. Others stood up, fists clenched, shouting angrily at Canelo, demanding that he take control of the fight. But the champion was trapped in his own frustration, unable to break through Crawford's defenses or land a single meaningful punch. With each passing round, the atmosphere in the arena grew more tense, more hostile. The once vibrant celebration of Mexican pride had turned into a nightmare scenario straight out of their worst fears. By the middle rounds, frustration boiled over into full-blown anger. Every time Canelo connected with a weak jab or got tagged by one of Crawford's combinations, the boos rained down from the stands. It was as if the crowd was trying to physically push Canelo to perform, to snap out of his daze and deliver the knockout blow they were all anticipating. But it was to no avail. Canelo was struggling, and there was nothing the crowd could do but watch helplessly as their hero was picked apart like an amateur. The chants of Canelo that had reverberated throughout the stadium were now replaced by the mocking laughter of Crawford supporters. Some die-hard Canelo fans refused to accept what they were seeing. They argued with anyone who dared suggest that Crawford was winning. They pointed to Canelo's previous victories, his knockout power, his unwavering determination. Surely this was just a fluke, they insisted. Surely their hero would rise from the ashes and claim the victory they had all expected. But deep down, even they had to admit the writing was on the wall. As the fight dragged on and Canelo continued to miss punch after punch, the cheers of all were replaced by stunned silence. The fans were out of excuses, out of hope, and most importantly, out of patience. In the world of professional boxing, fighters feed off the energy of the crowd. When the home crowd is behind them, there are cheers giving them strength and motivation. It can make all the difference. But when the crowd turns, when the cheers become jeers, and the jeers become boos, it can be a devastating blow. And that's exactly what happened to Canelo. His fans, once the loudest, most enthusiastic supporters in the arena, had transformed into a chorus of discontent. Their voices echoing the frustration and anger felt by the fallen champion himself. As the 7th round began, the tension was palpable. The crowd was on its feet, leaning forward, willing Canelo to do something, anything to turn the tide of the fight. But as the bell rang, it was Crawford who came out swinging, sensing victory within reach. Canelo, trapped in his own struggle, couldn't mount a defense, and when Crawford landed a solid combination, sending Canelo crashing to the canvas, the crowd erupted in a cacophony of boos and disbelief. This was their hero, the man they had cheered to the rafters just moments ago, lying defeated on the canvas. And as the referee began the count, their worst fears were confirmed. Canelo struggled to get back to his feet, but it was too late. The fight was over. Crawford had won, and as the crowd began to disperse, their anger and disappointment evident in their dejected voices, the true extent of Canelo's fall from grace became clear. On social media, the shockwaves were just as intense. Within minutes, highlights of Crawford's victory and Canelo's humiliating defeat went viral. Fans expressed their disbelief, anger, and heartbreak. Some couldn't accept the reality of the situation, insisting that the fight had been rigged. Others questioned Canelo's performance, wondering if he had lost his touch or worse, thrown the fight intentionally. There were even accusations of foul play and conspiracy theories alleging that Canelo had been targeted by forces trying to undermine his reign as boxing's top pound-for-pound fighter. The once vibrant online community of Canelo fans had transformed into a battleground of confusion, anger, and denial. What made the defeat even more shocking was that Canelo had been heavily favored to win the fight. Many experts and analysts predicted a swift victory for Canelo, with some even predicting a knockout. The fact that he had lost so badly to an opponent who had never before fought at super middleweight only added to the shock and disbelief. As the dust settled on this shocking upset, one thing became abundantly clear. Canelo's fans weren't just angry because their hero had lost. They were angry because they had placed their trust, their loyalty, and their faith in a man who had let them down on the biggest stage possible. They were angry because they had celebrated, they had hoped, they had believed. And in the end, none of it had mattered. They were angry because they had been made to believe that Canelo was invincible, only to realize that he was just a man capable of making mistakes, capable of losing, and most importantly, capable of letting his fans down. They were angry because in that moment of defeat, they saw a reflection of themselves. A reflection of their own misplaced trust and misplaced loyalty. They were angry because they realized that they had allowed themselves to be swept up in the hype, to be consumed by the passion of the moment. And in the end, they had nothing to show for it but a heavy heart and a burning sense of betrayal.